Hello everyone, it is Jess here from the Scrappy Sisters, and thank you for joining me for a Kitaholic Kits design team layout. Now for this particular layout, I have done this technique before and I absolutely love it. I especially love it when working with the Paige Evans 2x2s. A lot of her collections came with specific ephemera packs that were 2x2 cards, but she also makes this particular pattern paper, the one that I'm using on this layout, which is basically squares full of 2x2s. And I love using this technique with these squares because A, it uses them all up, which is a brilliant way of using up your pattern paper and not having any little scarix left over. And B, I just really love the technique and think it looks super cute. So what I did was cut all my 2x2 squares out of the piece of the pattern paper and picked the kind of ones, 99% of the ones that didn't have the big patterns on them. Like those butterflies is sort of a larger pattern than what the background pieces are. So I picked all of the background pieces to be the pattern papers that were a little bit softer and not so much going on them. And when I picked those, I then distressed all the edges and laid those out without sort of two colours that are the same touching each other. Tried to disperse those around a little bit. Then with the bunch of the leftovers, I decided which ones I wanted to keep as whole squares, which ones would look better without being cut in half. So like the 1 second from in the top row, it looks so beautiful as a whole. So I just trimmed it down a bit. So it's no longer 2x2, it's about 1 3/4 by 1 3/4 approximately. And I distressed its edges as well. I did the same with all of the triangle squares, cut those down to 1 3/4 by 1 3/4, but then obviously I also cut them in half to make triangles and distressed all those edges too. Not gonna lie, that process did take a little bit of time, but personally, I definitely think it's worth it. I just love the way this layout comes together. I love how bright and colourful it is, and it's definitely right up my alley. So I then had to play with where all the different triangles would go, spreading those around the page as well, wanting them to go on top of complementary, so either like the very first square in the top left, colours that kind of tie together and match, or more like the one on the top row on the far right, they're the ones that are kind of opposite in colour and just look nice together because of the way they're opposite. So that's where I was headed with this layout. So I did lay these all out in the desired patterns that I wanted and off camera and have them all organized in their rows up on my window ledge. So that's how I'm pulling them out so quickly. I know exactly where each one needs to go. But I also didn't overthink this very much. I am going to put that out there. It really didn't take me very long to lay them out because I just threw them all together. I know I'm going to have 3 photos on this layout, so a lot of this layout's going to be covered up anyway. So basically I'm going to go through and glue these all on. I'm not being super careful with the glue. I know that the wet PVA glue is going to hold it all together and I don't have to be super careful with it. And it's way less fiddly than trying to use double-sided tape on something like this. So I'm super happy with all of that. I've just got my last 2 rows to go, and honestly this process was definitely the longest part of this layout because there is so much happening in the background. I really didn't need very much ephemera, and I also had 3 photos on this page, so this crazy background, 3 photos, ephemera is just going to get lost. So I really kept the ephemera super simple. So now that you've stuck out the process of sticking all these down, the actual coming together of the rest of the layout should be fairly quick and easy. So once I stick down these last 2 squares, I am going to get going with my photos and the rest of my layout. Now for once, I did not stick my pictures up on foam. Now the whole reason I didn't was because of all the texture that I put in on the squares. It's quite bulky anyway. And I felt like the photos were actually sticking up just a little bit by the way that they were popped up from those textured squares. So I didn't bother using any foam this time. Quite unusual for me, but that's what happened. So these are my 3 photos. They're from my husband and I way back in 2013 when we were on holiday in Thailand. Thailand or Bali? Thailand, I think. Maybe Bali. Maybe Bali. Bali. Definitely Bali. Gosh, couldn't remember. We're not married yet. We haven't had our wedding yet, so he's not actually my husband. But yes, so that is what these photos are. I have actually got quite a few photos of this holiday that I still need to scrap, so you will see more of these coming up in the future. So just using the title Love, Love, Love This and throwing this little arrow in between. I must say, it was so funny. Jack saw these photos and he said, "That's a big pretend elephant." I said, "It's not pretend, honey." So what? He could not believe that we had touched and seen a real life elephant. He was just flabbergasted. So that was pretty cool. So just putting all of these bits and bobs together. And as I said to you earlier, I really kept the ephemera super, super light. Those are basically my 3 clusters done. And when I say clusters, I'm talking the title, the butterfly at the side, and then the mothy butterfly at the top. And that's basically it. I am going to do some tone on tone, color matching with some of the super fun puffies off the thicker sheet, but that's about it. I don't want to overdo it. I don't want to, draw your eye away or too specific spots. I think this layout is busy enough that I don't need to add to it by overextending the ephemera. So just popping a few bits and bobs on the page and she's done. Just cutting off some of the excess acetate after using those thickers. I keep calling them stickers, those thickers. Having a look at the colour study stickers. Oh my goodness, now I'm going the other way. To see if any of those are going to colour match or pop in with the squares. But I'm not actually sure I end up using too many of them. I think I decide that there's enough going on as it is that I'm not going to add a bit more. Just a little bit of text, I think, some tiny word phrases. I really love those phrases on the back of this particular sticker page in the colour study set. And then once I do that, she is done. And so I'm going to pull out my splatters. And I finally decided that my Heidi Swap Colour Shine had reached the end of its life, so I actually poured the last little bit of it into the Jen Hatfield because I feel like the Jen Hatfield and the Heidi Swap are almost the exact same product, almost. So I just mixed those together, just the last little dribbles, and I have splattered that away on my page and I love it. If you're wondering, I do love the Jen Hatfield splatters. I think they're gorgeous, so that's my tick of approval there. And I love the way this layout come together. Thank you so much for watching my process video, and I can't wait to see what you do with this particular piece of pattern paper. Have a very happy scrappy week.